The ride to work became a ride into a nightmare this morning for hundreds of SEPTA commuters when a train on the Market-Frankford L derailed, leaving at least one person dead, 93 others injured. And the drama continues at this hour with 5 people still trapped in that wreckage. Good afternoon. Monica Malpass joins us this noon. The big story on Action News, the tragedy on the SEPTA system.
It happened about 8:30 this morning on the westbound tracks of the L. A 6-car train jumped its tracks just after it pulled out of 30th Street Station, striking one of the poles that separates the east and westbound tracks. One of the cars was sheared in half as it tumbled over. We have a number of live reports on this disastrous morning. First, let's go to Rick Williams live at 30th Street Station for the latest from the scene. Rick.
Subway disasters to happen in a long time. At this hour, rescue units still on the scene at the edge of the platform. You can see them down there still trying to extricate the remaining passengers, including those who did not live. It has been a terrible morning for the passengers aboard the Market-Frankford who were simply heading to work this morning when all of a sudden about 8:20 tragedy struck. Passengers told tales of terror.
It just started vibrating real hard, and next thing I know, it was just going sideways.
Victim after victim brought out of the Market-Frankford L tunnel grimacing in pain. An army of fire and rescue units converged at the scene, a scene described as one of twisted steel and broken glass, as the last 3 cars of the train derailed and crashed into the guardrails. One car was sheared in half, trapping half a dozen passengers.
The side of it came off, it's peeled back, and the car after that is all the way over near the trolley tracks. It's bent from that side of the L tracks all the way over near this pole here.
Even the mayor looked shaken as he returned from surveying the damage. Throughout the morning, surgical teams descended to operate on those still trapped, and religious leaders arrived to pray for the souls of those who wouldn't survive.
There's no way you can even get near the people. They're still kind of removing the debris and moving parts of the car away from people.
Rick Williams, Channel 6 Action News in Center City.
Dozens of city and SEPTA officials are still on the scene trying to get help to the victims and relieve the tremendous traffic and transit gridlock around the scene. Action News reporter John Rollins has been following their steps. He now joins us also live from 30th Street. John?
Okay, we're live back in the underground of the SEPTA underground. You're seeing one of the surgical teams leave the situation. There is still a rescue going on down the tracks about a block and a half behind me here. 3.5 hours, though, after the incident, we're hearing very little from officials as to what exactly happened. We do know that there has been a massive infusion of aid here on the part of the fire department and the scores of rescue workers from both the Army and other units here in the city. But as we say, the managing director and the police commissioner are making it clear right now the city is focusing its efforts on the issue at hand, which of course is the rescue.
The rescue efforts are still underway in the subway between the police, the fire department. We have Army Medical Corps. We have doctors from various hospitals still working to free the any people that are remaining in the train cars. We'll have no information on the cause at this time. We understand that SEPTA will have a briefing in their office later on this afternoon about 3 o'clock. I can tell you right now that there's about 8 or 9 hospitals in the area, that somewhere between 50 and 70 people have been taken. As soon as we get definitive numbers, we'll give those numbers to you.
At this point, the last figures we've gotten from the police department is that there were 93 people injured today. They have been taken to 10 area hospitals. They have actually brought medical teams in, as Commissioner Williams just said, brought medical teams in from hospitals around here to minister aid to those trapped inside the cars. At last we heard there are still 2 people trapped inside the number 4 car of the 6-car train. It appears that number 4 car was had received the greatest damage. SEPTA is going to hold a 3 o'clock news conference, we understand, to give us some information as to what exactly happened. Certainly the biggest headache as far as the city is concerned right now is how to move passengers during the rush hour this afternoon. At this point, we understand they're going to use Chestnut Street, block Chestnut Street off between 50th and 60th Street in West Philadelphia, and use that as a staging ground, use that actually as a sort of a large bus station, as they will try to bus commuters out of West Philadelphia, or out of the center city rather, into West Philadelphia. So that's the situation right now. I'm John Rollins, live on the Action Cam in West Philadelphia.
All right, John, thank you. And now more on those injuries. As you said, there are at least 93 people hurt. The city's emergency response plan went into effect immediately after the crash occurred. Rescue crews were called in from as far away as Germantown to handle the flood of the injured. They were taken to 10 area hospitals, and miraculously, most of those injuries were minor, with many people walking into hospitals under their own power. Action News reporter Lucy Yang was at the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania as the injured came in. She now joins us live on the action cam. Lucy?
Robin, the Penn Star choppers here have been poised and ready to go since the alert call came in earlier this morning, but they have not been needed. We were told police and fire rescue officials have been able to bring in all the patients here via ambulances. We spoke with the head of the trauma unit earlier for an update on the situation.
Well, there's some psychological shock. There's some. One patient had a fractured nose. Another patient had a twisted ankle that could have been fractured, but nothing that is life-threatening.
At this trauma unit, the patients started coming in at around 9:45 this morning. While most were able to walk into the emergency room themselves, we have word that there are at least 3 in critical condition here. Doctors say, though, they are not in life-threatening situations. 33 others are being treated at this hospital for minor injuries. One of them, Cheryl Thorpe from Roxborough. She was released earlier this morning.
We were riding the trains, and the lights all of a sudden went off in the train, and then we were on the back train, and it went from side to side like it was getting ready to go off, but it went back on the train. And then the middle trains, they derailed and went to the other side of the track.
What was the ride like? Was it a roller coaster ride? What kind of ride was it going?
It was like, it felt like the end of the world. It was shaking back and forth, the one we were on the train.
As of a few minutes ago, the facility here is set to be back to normal. The emergency room here back to normal. Now, this facility has not been the only one taking in patients. Presbyterian Hospital reports they've treated 49, Thomas Jefferson 5, Hahnemann received 14 passengers, Pennsylvania Hospital 1, Misericordia Hospital 13, Children's Hospital 4. These are the latest figures we have. As you know, they keep changing as the hours pass. So we have a total of 122 treated at our city hospitals at this moment. We will continue to update the situation for you as the numbers keep coming in. That's it from the Hospital of the University of Pennsylvania. I'm Lucy Yang, live on the Action Cam. Back to the studio.
All right, Lucy, thank you. And of course, as we have indicated, the above ground area around 30th Street Station is just knotted with emergency vehicles. Here is the area now seen live from Chopper 6. Getting around or through the area, as you can imagine, is a serious problem at this hour. Several trolley lines run through the tunnel that is at the center of this whole tragedy, and shuttle buses are taking over for those lines. Now, they include the routes 10, 11, 13, 34, and 36 trolley lines. Also, buses are taking people to 40th and Market for transfers to trolleys. Now, you can call SEPTA at this revised number with questions about the situation or to find out whether someone you know was on that derailed train. The number, area code 215-636-2500. And of course, the Action News team is following this tragedy throughout the day, and we will have a complete report and update for you tonight on Action News at 5 and 6.
And we would assume in some cases giving last rites to critically injured victims down aboard the trains. Robin McIntosh spent 3 hours this morning from the moments just after the crash on the platform. He has the stories of the people who were aboard the train and who survived. Here's Robin's report.
The scene beneath 30th Street, something out of a nightmare. Dozens of passengers carried out by stretcher. Commuters who moments before had been riding to and from work on a westbound train when suddenly something went terribly wrong.
I got on the L here and everything was fine, and before we left here you could hear something hitting under it going bam, 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 bam. And by the time it got there, the thing just, boom, it jumped all of a sudden. I flew and I landed on somebody.
The ties along the subway tracks torn to splinters showed the force of the derailment. The passengers who could walk away were at the front of the train. The most damage to the third car of the train that was literally torn in half.
It's scary as hell, man, because like people got thrown all over the place. It was pretty bad.
Reporting from 30th Street, I'm Robin McIntosh, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Back live at 30th Street. Again, this afternoon there will be no L service. Police officials say a special area for buses will be set up on Chestnut Street. Chestnut Street to be closed between 50th and 60th, turned into an impromptu transit depot. If you have people you fear might have been aboard this train, again, the number 636-2500. And a final historic footnote to this crash. It is right now, with between 1 and 3 people dead, perhaps one of the worst mass transit disasters in the city's history. The only analogous kind of accident the only tragedy comparable back in the 40s, the wreck of a Pennsylvania Railroad train which left scores of people dead. Recently, some SEPTA commuter rail crashes with perhaps one fatality. This is unprecedented. SEPTA having a press conference this afternoon with more details, and we'll be back to you throughout the afternoon with updates, and tonight on Eyewitness News with a full report. For now, that's it live from a very tragic scene at 30th Street. Back to you, Howard.
All right, Walt Hunter, thank you. We look at a situation like this and we say, goodness, how could something like this happen? What is the exact cause of the accident?
Tia O'Brien is in the Eyewitness Newsroom right now with more details, as far as we know, as to what it was that actually caused it. Tia?
Howard, officials still are trying to determine the exact cause of this accident. So far, they are saying publicly that the train derailed because of a switching problem. But sources close to the investigation are telling me that this is what happened. A device called a traction motor came loose under the train. It was dragging along the tracks and hit the switch arm, causing the cars to go in different directions and to derail. Now, these sources tell me this has happened at least once before, back in 1975. The result was less tragic. The car lifted up into the air and came back down, and a subsequent investigation showed that the cause was defective steel that caused the bolts holding the traction motor to come loose. Of course, we will be trying to keep on top of this, bringing you up to date at 5:30 and 6. Back to you.
That account seems to corroborate what the rider on the train said he heard and felt, something underneath banging away.
Exactly, indeed it does. Well, now, for those of you at home, just to wrap up this rush hour subway disaster, a 6-car train traveling westbound derailed at 30th Street Station just after 8:30 this morning. Conflicting information on the fatalities. Police Commissioner Willie Williams confirms that at least one person died. Nearly 100 people were injured, many of them trapped on the train. Scores of emergency crews worked frantically to rescue those who were hurt. The accident left one of the cars split in half.
The derailment has caused some major transportation problems. Here's what you need to know if you're traveling anywhere in that area. The eastbound off-ramps at 30th Street and Spring Garden are closed. The westbound off-ramps at 30th Street also closed. Avoid Market Street at all costs. It's closed from 22nd to 34th Streets. For those of you who'd be taking the Market-Frankford subway, you must know that Chestnut Street will be dedicated to bus traffic only between 5th and 60th Streets today. SEPTA providing shuttle bus service from 15th to 52nd. If you have any other questions, call this number, 636-2500, 636-2500, a derailment hotline SEPTA has set up to explain as much as they can about what to do and where to go.
And there's more news this noon, even beyond this.